Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, the new Stephen Sondheim Harold Prince musical thriller starring Angela Lansbury.
My supplies!
And Glenn Carreyrou.
What happened then? Well, that's the play, and he wouldn't want us to give it away.
Not Sweeney.
Not Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street.
The importance of the horror musical Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street under the direction of Harold Prince.
Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, tells the story of an English barber becoming a serial killer in order to seek revenge on a corrupt judge who banished him and stole his wife and daughter. In his plot for revenge, he comes into cohorts with Mrs. Levitt, a local pie shop baker, and the two of them hatch a plan to kill unsuspecting customers in Sweeney's barber shop above and use their carcasses in meat pies from Mrs. Levitt's bakery below.
The character of Sweeney Todd first appeared in a penny dreadful published by an unnamed author in Victorian-era England. His story didn't initially contain the tragic arc of his exile and his wife's rape that led audiences to sympathize with him. That element of the production was introduced in Christopher Bond's 1973 play, which marked the first stage production of the story. Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler's famous creation built off of Bond's play and added another layer of depth with music. The original 1979 Broadway production won 8 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and Best Original Score. All of its productions have won a combined 10 Tony Awards, which is the 8th highest total of all time. Sweeney Todd was one of the very first horror musicals. Combined with giants like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, it defined the genre and paved the way for musicals such as Carrie, Little Shop of Horrors, and Phantom of the Opera. The musical has been revived twice and adapted for a movie, and it has been successful in many forms due to the astonishing plot and haunting characters. Another crucial element of the musical is the citizens of London acting as a Greek chorus. It's interesting to point out that although the citizens provide the intro to the show and foreshadow Sweeney's actions, they're not omniscient. For example, the citizens open Act 2 as patrons in Mrs. Levitt's pie shop and are blissfully unaware of what they're eating. The main action of the chorus is to document Sweeney's journey as he seeks his revenge. Each time he kills a major character, the chorus appears on stage to sing and drive home the weight of what just occurred. The chorus neither judges nor criticizes Sweeney's actions. Though they don't explicitly sympathize with him, they act as if they understand his motivation. This behavior perfectly ties in with Prince's Industrial Revolution metaphor and paints the citizens as a slightly unhinged unit.
I am a person who is very new to theater culture, and it appears that most people involved in theater know a multitude of Broadway shows. Both my group members immediately knew of the Sweeney Todd, whereas I struggled to think of how I knew this title. After thinking for a second, it struck me. Andy in the show The Office performed the opening act. I, like many other non-theater people, had not seen the musical, yet I was able to recognize the music and the show through The Office. These references to the music in modern-day television help reach different audiences who wouldn't have looked at this production otherwise. This allows the play to be brought into modern times, rather than adapting it like how The Taming of the Shrew was adapted into 10 Things I Hate About You. Referencing the production as being a production the characters put on in their life is another way to keep the music and story relevant. The Broadway production has also been adapted into a movie produced by Tim Burton as another attempt to reach a different audience. While some people might not realize that this is in fact originally a Broadway production, they can recognize the storyline and music. We can even see the use of the music within modern social media, such as TikTok. There is currently an audio on TikTok with the phrase, "seems a damn right shame, such an awful waste," that many creators use in their videos.
An important piece needs to be adaptable, meaning that different interpretations should be encouraged. Sweeney has certainly had its fair share of revivals, from a production in the round to a production in an actual pie shop. However, one sticks out. John Doyle's 2005 revival of Sweeney Todd started a new wave of theatrical minimalism. Inspired by Marat Sade, a play about insane asylum inmates retelling the events of the French Revolution, Doyle retold the story of the Demon Barber of Fleet Street in a similar manner. Not only this, but each of the cast members also played an instrument in the orchestra, adding to this idea of an insane asylum putting on a production for the audience. This also proved that shows could be successful and interesting without all the spectacle. The original production had all the bells and whistles, but this revival perhaps had even more heart and tension. Plus it had Patti LuPone with a tuba.
Is Sweeney Todd a tragic hero? Is he a good guy? While he did murder multiple people, the watcher can't help but root for him to succeed in his revenge. While he was not a man of high standing or necessarily a hero, he did have his life taken away from him. His need for revenge eventually consumes him and leads to his downfall. Sweeney Todd can be seen as one of the first morally ambiguous characters within a Broadway musical. The audience is forced to question if they want to support him and see him succeed, or if they want him to fail in his revenge. The idea of having a morally ambiguous character grew from this production. We can see this through a modern adaptation produced by Netflix, where the audience also deals with the moral question if they should root for the bad guy. Joe, the likable main character, ends up killing those who get in the way of his relationship. However, the audience still wants him to succeed in finding love and happiness. The moral conflicts the audience goes through are exactly the same, as one doesn't know if it is morally correct to root for these murderers. The idea of an audience rooting for an immoral character was adapted from Sweeney Todd. We can see that the motives behind these murders and begin to justify them in order to see the character succeed.
My favorite scene from any Broadway show is the Joanna Quartet found in Act 2 right after the opening number. Harold Prince himself said that it is probably some of Sondheim's best work. In the scene, Sweeney is the centerpiece as he mundanely slits the throats of unsuspecting customers and sends them down the special chute to the bakery to be baked into Mrs. Lovett's meat pies. Quartets tend to be an impactful piece in Sondheim's work, as he usually uses them to express everyone's thoughts and feelings, allowing their emotions to overlap, coincide, and interfere. This 5-minute and 29-second scene is meticulously crafted chaos. From Anthony's hopeful and beautiful melody about wanting to steal Joanna for a better life, to Sweeney's monotonous and evolving disinterest of Joanna, to Joanna's consistent longing for a new, normal romantic life, to the beggar woman's crazed pleading that something bad is happening. Each part in the scene is so masterfully created by Sondheim to tell each individual story. This is so important because this scene is a perfect example as to why some scenes need to be musicalized to have maximum impact. To put it simply, the scene would not be as effective if it was not a musical number. Sweeney Todd and Sondheim works in general need the music in order to be an important piece. The musical themes, the motifs, the special wording all play into the show as a whole, thus revitalizing and reestablishing the importance of musical theater.
Clothing within this production is used as a way to show class and status. Like many productions based in older time, class played a significant role in shaping these characters. The way that they dress visibly shows the audience where they are within the societal standings. It also plays off the idea that the physical perception of these characters are not always an accurate representation of who they are. The beggar woman was perceived to be disgusting and lower than Sweeney Todd, while the nice clothing of the judge shows his position of power and supposed superior societal position. At the beginning of the show, we can see Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett dressed in rags and presented as the poor underclass. However, in the second act, we can see their clothes become nice, indicating their success within their own businesses. It is important to keep the use of clothing consistent throughout all productions, as the visual aspects are an important part to conveying who these characters are to the audience.
A large piece of the original Broadway musical was Hal Prince's vision of the show as a metaphor for the Industrial Revolution. In an interview with NPR, Prince said, "In order to do decent work, I have to have some kind of metaphor or I can't do it." He connected his vision for the show's metaphor with the set by working with scenic designer Eugene Lee to buy a genuine New England factory, which they then disassembled to create parts of the set. Prince didn't feel much of a connection to the plot, as it's essentially a story of vengeance being pursued by a man who's broken. However, he connected the dots for himself by imagining the characters as being battered from their time spent in the factory, with vengeance being spread like a disease as they returned to their jobs day after day. He believed that over time the characters would become deranged. Prince was known for his concept musicals, which were productions that focused on a serious topic or message. Sweeney Todd is a picture-perfect example of a concept musical, as it was centered on the dangers and corrosive nature of the Industrial Revolution.
To build off of what Paige said regarding Hal Prince's direction of Sweeney, it is a masterclass in directing. This show is a very difficult show to make appealing. This is a very difficult show to make appealing. He had to convince the audience to root for a pair of murderers, and he succeeded. He's no stranger to theater with his smorgasbord of Broadway hits including West Side Story, She Loves Me, Fiddler on the Roof, Cabaret, A Little Night Music, among others. From watching the documentary about Hal and Sondheim preparing the production in London, it is very clear to see that Hal Prince has a very strong understanding on who the characters are and why they are important. The way he suggests actors to act a certain way is brilliant. Particularly when staging Epiphany, a moment when Todd snaps, he mentions to the actor that this is a pivotal turning point for the character. Instead of seeking specific revenge, Sweeney has now decided that we all deserve to die, even you, Mrs. Lovett, even I. The thorough understanding of the piece and innovativeness Prince has allowed this piece to be so impactful. That is the importance of Sweeney Todd.